Hi, my name is Stephen Hawes, the founder and CEO of Opulo, and this is the July 2025 company update. Opulo is an open source hardware company making the Lumen PNP, which is a desktop pick-and-place machine used for assembling electronic components onto circuit boards. The Lumen PNP is meant for assembling PCBs in a wide range of production scales, anywhere from just a handful of boards for a quick prototype run, all the way up to production of a few thousand units a year like we do here using the Lumen PNP to make the boards that go into the Lumen PNP. As always, this video goes along with the blog post on our website, so if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a link in the description. You can go read the blog post and follow along with the video. Alright, as usual, we will start out this month with lead times. I mentioned this last month, but we've been doing a lot of stuff recently to try and really truly bring our lead time down, namely in hiring and changing some of the layout here at the office with how we allocate space for different products. The balance between Lumen PNP and feeders has shifted quite a bit actually over the past, I want to say 4 or 5 months. So we've been spinning up new workstations to account for that, which definitely takes time, and training employees, new employees and employees that haven't been working on other things before, getting them up to speed on how to scale up and make more of them. As a result of this hiring, we have brought our internal lead time down pretty good. I think we're at a week and a half actually internally. That's about the cadence we're shipping with. Of course, it depends greatly on what you buy and the lead time listed and all that stuff, but internally it's quite good. We are very, very regularly shipping quite a bit ahead of our estimated lead time, but we want this buffer because we really want to ensure, we want to make sure that we're gonna hit the time that we say on the website, so we're not gonna quite bring it down yet. We're taking advantage of this longer lead time to kind of get ahead and bring it down, and then we will slowly have the actual official lead time follow suit shortly thereafter. As always, the list of lead time on the product page is always the most accurate place. We keep that perfectly in parity up to date. In fact, that number is what we use in our internal system to know when we have to ship something by. So if you're curious about when something is going to ship, guaranteed, the actual drop dead ship date, it's gonna be based on the product page on the website. So you can always use that as reference. Okay, next up, wide feeders. We are still in the R&D phase with our wide feeders, or our 2U feeders that take up 2 slots for 16 and 24 millimeter tape. I made a video about this a few months ago about doing a lot of the prototyping. I've been doing a lot of the drudgery work of going through and doing small iterations and tweaks, and we're prepping to do our EVT build. If you're not familiar with that format, we have an OHM episode talking about the EVT, DVT, PVT process. There's a link in the description. A lot of the work I've been doing recently has been around the feeder PCB, and we're changing a handful of things here, mainly for power efficiency. So we're actually completely scrapping the whole low dropout voltage regulator, and we're putting 2 full buck converters in there, which is gonna help a lot with efficiency and power draw. I also spent a fair amount of time just going through and cleaning up the schematic and making it a little bit easier to interpret and read, and Thea gave me a ton of great advice. There's a whole thread in GitHub if you're curious about the things we're planning on changing. We're also changing the microcontroller to have a little more flash. These are all small little things that are just gonna make stuff generally easier for us, easier for builders, easier for writing firmware and not having to keep it in a really small package. So that's fantastic. That's in progress. And then after I get a good pass of the schematic done, I'll do layout and then dive back into some of the mechanics of the feeder, and hopefully we'll get an EVT build pretty soon and we'll put it through some paces. I'm really excited. I'm stoked about this progress on the 2U. It's gonna be great. It was a lot more than 3 years ago we thought it was going to require in order to get it to work well, but I think we're in a really good path to make it work the way we want it to. Okay, next up is the feeder UART bootloader. Recently we had a couple people report that they had a hard time flashing firmware to their feeders over the UART port. At the bottom of the feeder there's 6 staggered pins, and when we ship feeders we include this little dongle that plugs into your computer and it lets you program your feeders. Some people weren't able to do that on their feeders. If you're experiencing this, I'm sorry for the trouble. Please reach out to us and we will get you sorted. These feeders work totally fine normally. It's just a matter of communicating to the UART bootloader. That's the only thing that's kind of wonky with them, but otherwise they work totally fine. We did a lot of poking to figure out why this was actually happening, and it literally came down to our chip supplier started sourcing a very slightly different version of the RS485 transceiver. Not even a different part number, it was a different silicon revision. And this version behaves just slightly differently when the bootloader is activated. There was just enough leakage current to pull these pins high that interferes with communication. I have a whole write-up about it if you're curious about actually what happened. It was a weird problem. It was a very strange edge case. But we're doing a bunch of things to make this better in the future and also fix it for folks that are having a hard time programming their feeders. This problem is fully fixed with just 2 bias resistors on a couple pins on the feeder. So we immediately made the change in the board, and our next spin of boards is just gonna have these by default, so problem solved. We made a small little interface interposer board that can be soldered on top of the RS485 chip, and that just splices in 2 of the bias resistors, also works totally fine. And Thea did a really incredible thing in firmware. When you're in the UART bootloader, you have no control over the pins in the STM32, but she did this crazy thing where you can actually enter the bootloader from firmware. You just jump to the bootloader, but before you do that, she actually straps those pins into the bias that you need for the chip to be biased correctly. So she kind of sets the pins, locks them, and then jumps to the bootloader, and they keep their locked position. Those only reset on a full power boot. So she found a firmware way to latch these. Unfortunately, the only way to flash that firmware onto these heaters is with an SWD programmer like a Blackmagic Probe or a J-Link. So if you have one of those, you can just fix this in firmware. This version of firmware for feeders is 1.0.4 of Photon. This is what we've been flashing on feeders for the past week or so. So all feeders here on out are gonna have this new version. If you'd like to do one of these fixes yourself, either flash the firmware with an SWD programmer, heck yeah, we have a docs page already up on how to do that. If you want to splice in the interposer yourself and you don't feel like shipping feeders back to us to get replacements, that's fine too. We'll send you interposers for free. Just shoot us a message at our support form, support.opulo.io, and we'll send you some interposer boards, and that's a quick fix too. Or if you don't mind a little downtime and you don't mind sending your feeders back to us, we'll get them right as rain, flash and firmware, no problem, and send them right back to you. But again, if you are experiencing this with your feeders, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and we'll get you all sorted. Okay, next up is certification content. I have finally gotten around to sorting through the 100+ gigabytes of footage that I shot of bringing the Lumen PNP V4 through the certification process. We get so many comments asking to do a podcast episode or a video about the process of doing certification. It is a complicated thing, it is a messy and obfuscated thing, and it's an expensive thing, and there's not a lot of great information about that out there. A long time ago, when we actually brought the V4 through the certification process, I filmed everything. And only now have I actually just been plunking away at it over the weekends, trying to get all the footage together and put it together into something that is easily shareable. And I'm hoping very soon I'm going to have a video out about the whole cert process we went through for V4. And this time we actually passed first try, which was incredible. So I have that video just about done. Hopefully I'll be able to share it pretty soon. So for everyone that's been waiting, thank you for your patience. I'm also working on setting up a website that's going to act as a central repository for all information about shipping a hardware product. We do a lot of this just with videos on my YouTube channel or with the OM podcast. A lot of information is shared there, but I want to have some public written handbook of like, this is a good way to go about doing certain things for running a hardware company. So I'm working on kind of taking a lot of the nitty-gritty information about the search process and encoding it into this website and hopefully adding more stuff in the future. It's gonna be a GitHub repo, so if someone wants to make a PR, if you have information you think would be helpful to add, I'd love to see a PR. So I'll be sharing that in the video I post on my channel shortly. And lastly, as I'm sure many of you know, we hired Thea Flowers 7 months ago, and she's been hard at work on some really exciting new projects that we're really excited to show you. She actually came up to the Opulo office last week with our friend Maggie, and we got some really cool results on some stuff that we're really excited to show you soon. We're cooking on something. We'll have some more news very shortly. All right, that's it for this update. Thank you so much for watching. I will be at Open Sauce in, 2 weekends from now. Open Sauce is the weekend of July 18th through 20th. So if you're in the San Francisco area, pick up a ticket, come by. If you have any feedback or questions or comments about this format or any specific thing that I said here, please do not hesitate to leave a comment on the YouTube video or shoot us a message at support@opulo.io. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next month. "6 minutes to go. Close to the wire."